Geetha sadhana soapaana. uh, Steps to self-realization as taught in Bhagavad Gita by Swami AtmaanandEndra Saraswatee. In this, today we are going to discuss about the examination of Karma Yoga. Section number 1.9. In that book, page number 46, in the PDF form. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. The identification of the word yoga with actionlessness, Naishkarmya, may incite the ire of the champions of Karma Yoga. In modern times, it is difficult to think of an equal to Lokamanya Tilak among the votaries of this view that yoga only refers to Karma Yoga, understood as desireless action. He was a towering genius, and his unmatched all-round scholarship could readily produce plenty of scriptural authority to back up his arguments. Therefore, in places where we reject his views, we do so without forfeiting our intense and great respect for him. He also has admitted that he was seeing more clearly than the earlier commentators over whose shoulders he was standing. It is therefore with all humility that we are stating that his arguments appear to us to suffer from a primary defect, his inability to appreciate correctly the meaning of the terms knowledge and renunciation as taught in the Gita. This fact becomes all the more obvious by observing his relentless preoccupation with attacking the idea of renunciation and even the concept of devotion. Therefore, it may be worthwhile at this point to briefly examine the correct import of the term Karma Yoga as taught in the Gita, although a more detailed discussion will follow as the text progresses. For understanding the relation of Karma Yoga to yoga, as discussed above, we do not have to strain ourselves to seek any other authority, inasmuch as the Gita itself provides the answer. The Lord has dismissed a person as a hypocrite who has renounced actions externally but is still wrapped up in them mentally. As opposed to this, the Lord instructs us that whoever controlling the senses through the mind so that the mind does not become subservient to their propensities, performs karma yoga, is eminent, he excels. In this context, the particular elements that stand out clearly can be stated as follows. First, all the senses should be brought completely under control, and the desire to seek happiness in the sense objects must cease. Secondly, the mind should be completely detached from the functions of the senses which continue to engage themselves in actions. And finally, we must develop a total lack of attachment to the action at all of its stages. It should be noticed that the stress here is on yoga, the karma being performed in such a way that it becomes an aid for uniting the practitioner with the Lord and not for taking the person away from him. What therefore is opposed to karma yoga is not karma sannyasa, the abandonment of actions, as both will lead to the same goal as the Lord has assured Arjuna. This would be a contradictory instruction if they were in fact opposed to each other. The Lord states that the opinion that they are opposed to each other is the opinion of ignorant people. But passivity, as we have been told, is the gateway to and the hallmark of tamas, ignorance and laziness. And such passivity is opposed to karma sannyasa as well as karma yoga. All this discussion concerning the correct way to perform action, needless to say, belongs to the category of all those still in the grip of ignorance. It has to be made abundantly clear that the jnani, the wise man, has no karmas at all, even while it is the body, etc., which are seen by the others, still the ignorance that continues to act. And the body, senses, and mind that is attributed to the jnani continues to perform all karmas in an ideal fashion and as example for others. In that, his previous efforts to purify himself have now become an irresistible, effortless habit. Not only does this way of understanding the true nature of a wise man not go against Lord's teachings in fact, supports it and harmonizes the text in a way that other perspectives do not. While before the advent of knowledge, the Jnani was aware that he was in the body and that he was instrumental in performing karmas, all the while making an effort to perform them without any attachment. After knowledge or jnana, the detachment is complete and effortless. In the same fashion as the life functions, such as breathing and circulating the blood, can continue during the state of deep sleep, and the sleeping person is totally unaware of them, the obligatory duties are being done in a perfect fashion without desire or hatred, raga, dvesha, by the collection of the body, senses, etc., in accordance with scriptural injunctions, while the wise man himself is completely unaware of them. Much has been made of the objection that if a jnani has no karma or obligatory duties to perform, instead of becoming a model for others to follow, he will set a bad example for people and inspire them to also give up their duties. This would be against the very injunction of the Lord contained in the third chapter, where he tells us that actions must be performed. The fact that the wise man has undergone the abandonment of all actions, sarva karma sannyasa, would go against the scriptural injunction. As long as living, he should do the agnihotra, fire sacrifice. As long as a person is entitled for karma and is able to perform it, he cannot give up the obligatory duties. If physical disability prevents him from engaging himself in these duties, it is permissible that he casts them away. This is the only condition under which suicide would be seen as acceptable and in accordance with scriptural teaching. Since he has lost all obligations regarding dharma and adharma, he would not be abiding by the requirements such as maintaining the sacrificial fire, wearing a sacred tuft of hair, and wearing the sacred thread. In short, if you say a jnani is above all scriptural rules, then if he behaves at all, he would behave like a madman, ignoring all scriptural and societal rules, or he may just remain inactive like a stone. Obviously, this cannot be a description of a wise man, a jnani. In contradistinction, a person is extolled as a sannyasi and a yogi who performs karma as a duty, not depending on its fruits, but definitely not one who has merely cast off karma either as a result of laziness or for fear of bodily exertion. Nor does he become a yogi merely by giving up duties and remaining inactive. This type of casting off of karma will not lead to actionlessness, naishkarmya, nor will merely abandoning karma lead to siddhi, the perfection of yoga. Hence, the objection is against inaction or failure in duty, which is either tamasic or rajasic, which will in no way contribute to yoga or jnana knowledge. This is opposed to the sattvic renunciation of actions, wherein the action is performed but with no attachment. So, what is opposed is not karma yoga and karma sannyasa, but rather karma yoga and tamasic or rajasic renunciation of actions. This raises the question as to what really constitutes renunciation, sannyasa, and knowledge or jnana. To understand these terms properly, an examination becomes essential as to how karma or actions, scriptural or worldly, comes into effect. The Lord leaves no one in doubt regarding the complete absence of agency for any action in self. The Lord says, whoever sees the self as the doer is a person whose mind is wrapped because of not having performed good deeds. He also says, he alone sees who sees on all sides action solely performed by nature and sees also the self as a non-performer. Similarly, he states, whoever considers himself as an agent of karma is also deluded by the ego sense, since it is only the three gunas, the qualities of nature in the form of the sense organs that function in the corresponding gunas outside in the form of objects. As a result, it is only when a person, not knowing his real nature, falsely identifies himself with the gunas or prakriti that he appears as an agent. This also includes the false identification with all the limiting adjuncts of the body, senses, mind, intellect, and ego, which are merely the products of previous actions. When falsely identifying with these, we seemingly take upon ourselves the burden of action, which actually is existing in nature, prakriti alone. Since such a confusion between what one's nature really is and what one has accepted oneself to be can arise only due to a lack of discriminative correct knowledge of one's own self or true nature, it stands to reason that the correct knowledge actually means being in one's own self, bereft of knower knowing, known, and not literally knowing something. Because no action is possible except when in association with nature, Prakriti, without falsely identifying with Prakriti. The self, Atman, cannot act and cannot know anything and will merely remain as he is, the non dual reality. This is the ideal sannyasa taught by the Geetha, and that state has been described as the ultimate good, Nishtayasa. This state, it is necessary to remember, is not the sannyasa adopted at the last stage of life, nor does it refer to the stage of life resorted to by those disinterested in worldly life, refusing to get into the trammels of the householder's duties. Since this type of formal sannyasa renunciation aims at achieving the ultimate sannyasa, it is described as vividisha sannyasa, adopting the life of a formal renunciate with the desire to attain knowledge. This understanding that the wise man is the one who does nothing, sees nothing, and knows nothing, and that anyone who does something, sees something, or knows something is not a wise man, may seem quite foreign to most students of the Gita, will require some reflection and further clarification so as to fully appreciate this rather unique and profound perspective. I think let us continue this in the next session. हरे राम हरे कृष्ण सद्गुरु चरणार्पितमस्तु सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु सज्जनाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ओम तत्सत् श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु सद्गुरु चरणार्पितमस्तु।